Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 3-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. In this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' 3-game series against the Tampa Bay Rays. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins finish a 9-game gauntlet against the Blue Jays, Yankees, and Rays, coming away going 5 for 4, finishing it off, taking 2 of 3 from the Rays. We had a lot of discussion prior to this gauntlet run that the Twins just completed, and we were thinking 500, even 1 game under 500 for these next 9 games would be acceptable. What do you know, Dan? 5 and 4.
First of all, you can't be 500 in a 9-game stretch, David. The math doesn't work unless you win 4.5 games.
Close to 500. Dan, you're an English teacher. Stop correcting my math.
I'm just saying.
Continue with your thoughts.
All right, fine. A couple things. First of all, very impressive to win this series. A little bit of bummer how they played Game 3. But yes, I feel really pretty good about this team without Sonny Gray or Joe Ryan making a start.
Yeah, and with Rocco just giving up on a few games that they still managed to win, Dan Thompson.
Isn't that funny? He really does play to win the next game. It was fantastic. I think as long as they win 1 of every 2 games, he's pretty happy. Like 500 is what Rocco's aiming for.
Seems like a good goal for this current Twins lineup. But the Twins are currently leading the AL Central by 3 games over the Cleveland Guardians. White Sox are sitting 5.5 back. But the Twins still seem to be somewhat in control, and now they head into a little bit easier portion of the schedule.
Yeah, coming up, they got Mariners, Diamondbacks, Guardians, Rockies, Guardians. So those are going to be pretty big series against the Guardians when those come up here.
Looking at the AL Central standings right now, it's vastly different than what everybody had projected at the beginning of the season.
I think that at this point last year, the Twins were so far back, and we had we lost hope like at that point?
Probably. It was pretty early, Dan, that these podcast episodes got pretty dreary.
because I do think 2 months into the season, you do have a pretty good picture of which teams are the better teams in the division. And the fact that the Twins have been doing this, missing so many guys, I do think that they are going to be a team that is going to win 90 games probably this year. If not 90, then dang close to it. And we haven't seen enough of the Guardians yet, I feel like, to really have a read.
Yeah, well, and if they were in any other division, Dan, not a chance they win 90 games this season.
Probably not. But again, with the balanced schedule coming next season, I think it's going to matter less and less. I think those records are going to matter a lot more, or going to be more telling, I think, in the years coming up.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. So one note before we jump into the series recap. So we don't normally talk about download numbers, or we try not to push. Each episode we do our sort of generic, hey, like and subscribe. But folks, let me tell you, if there's one thing that we can count on, always, is that a Yankees series that the Twins lose, which is virtually all of them, will definitely be the lowest downloaded episode of Men for the Win. And that stands true after the last Yankees series, Dan.
Yeah, nobody wants to listen to us talk about the Yankees. Well, hey, let's run in here to this series recap.
Series recap.
First game, Dan, and the Twins come out with a bang. 9-4, they come away with the victory. Now, it did take me some time, Dan. Took me a little bit of time to figure out how to watch this baseball game. Quite obnoxious. Apple TV, the announcers have no idea who the Twins are. It drives me nuts, Dan. Major League Baseball is so obnoxious. Just one place to watch the games, Dan.
The funny part to me, David, is how they try to sound like they know the team a lot, though. Like, it's clear that they're grasping at stats and they're grasping at highlights that they watch from previous games. It's pretty funny to watch them attempt to it. But the Twins looked really good. If they're gonna play on Apple TV, I want them to play as well as they played here in this game. Buxton, 2 for 5. Correa, 3 for 5. Arraez, 2 for 5. The stars showed up.
Yes, and Smeltzer did enough, Dan. 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, but 3 home runs given up. But again, he did enough against a very, very good Rays lineup.
Well, and 2 of those home runs were late. They were in the 7th inning when he was trying to stretch. One of them an inside the park home run, I believe, by a Rosario. Obviously, he takes credit for those. It would have been nice to see him finish 7. But then Griffin Jax comes in. Joe Smith gives up a run, but Pagan closed it down, which I thought was really important.
Well, and we do need to talk about this inside the park home run. A Rosario hits one deep to center right. Gordon's over there, First of all, Buxton makes the play. Almost no question. Like, sometimes I say that and it's like, okay, that's even a stretch for Buxton, right? Like, maybe he might not have made the play. But in this instance, certainly, Buxton would have had a read on it and he definitely would have been there. But the big thing is there is no way that this ball should have led to an inside the park home run. Number one, if you watch this replay, it is ridiculous. Gordon literally just stands there. He watches it bounce off the wall, and then he just sits there. He has his feet planted. He's not making any movement towards the ball. Granted, Kepler probably should have been there to back him up, so Kepler's definitely at fault here as well. But literally, Gordon is just standing there. It's like, what are you doing? I know the guy's fast, but you're telling me that you wouldn't even have a shot to get him if you tried to move your feet? Driving me nuts, Dan.
I don't love that. It's kind of akin to when outfielders kind of give the cursory jog for a home run that's way over their head. Or who was it? Somebody just stood still once very famously in left field and didn't even try. It did feel a little bit like that. Luckily, it doesn't come back to burn the Twins because they were able to get some of those insurance runs.
Yeah, so Dan, you can go ahead and share your stat.
I'm glad you asked, David. Byron Buxton.
I didn't ask. I told you that you could have this opportunity,
fair enough. Dan. So Byron Buxton became the fourth Twins player to hit multiple home runs in back-to-back games. He joined the great Don Mincher, Kirby Puckett, and the great Eddie Rosario as the four Twins to do that now. Congratulations, Byron Buxton.
My goodness. I mean, say what you will about Eddie Rosario, but I mean, when you literally swing every swing for a home run, you were bound to have a couple of games in a row that you connected.
Are you ready to go to game two? I'm pretty sure I got more Eddie Rosario somewhere here in this episode.
Always. Folks, you don't know how many times I have to go through the spreadsheet prior to the episode and delete Eddie's name from all the different cells that Dan's put him in.
All right, game two. The Twins win this game too. As we put in here, it's always good to win a game you weren't actually trying to win. No Buxton, no Correa, but the Twins find a way to win this one.
It's pretty impressive. Twins win this one 6-5. It got close because it wasn't like, oh, Twins got up early. It's like, oh my, what are we gonna do? It took until the third inning. The Twins come back after they'd given up 3 runs in the first. Again, the Twins pitching lines here: Gonzalez, McGill, Thielbar, Cotton, Duran, Pagan. Which, what I love about this, Dan, is it goes like, you can see it if you could chart out like how good the pitcher is and like where they are in the game as far as the score is concerned. It's like it starts as low as possible with Gonzalez, then you go McGill, and then it's like wait, okay, we better put in Thielbar than cut. Like it gets exponentially better as the Twins' winning chances go up.
Yeah, this one, a great baseball game. Obviously, the Rays score the first 3, but then the Twins get 5 in the third, including, of course, what everybody predicted, a Luis Arraez grand slam. And then it really turned into a very good baseball game after that, within a run, almost the entirety of the rest of the game.
The Arraez grand slam, he's bound to get tested for steroid use here. You hit one off Cole, and then you hit a grand slam. I don't know. Some people are going to start asking questions, Dan.
He might have actually been swinging for a home run on that one. That's what it looked like to me. Like he really turned on that inside pitch. Also, McGill gets the win because obviously he was the most important pitcher in this game after Chichi couldn't quite go 5.
I don't know. So Hogs texted us and he's like, okay, so who gets the win in this particular game according to your system? And I said nobody. I don't think anybody deserves the win in this particular outing because it was sort of a group effort and nobody was necessarily more valuable than anybody else. So I would say it's a group win, but nobody gets a win in the min for the win pitching system.
Sure. Well, I would say this. I think it's time to change the 5-inning requirement to 4. To me, the 4-inning start is now what the 5-inning start used to be because teams are so careful about arms, unless maybe we're just living in this fantasy land where Rocco Baldelli doesn't believe in letting pitchers go really much past a minimum pitch count. I don't know. Isn't that reasonable? He did pitch the most innings of any Twins pitcher.
Yes, that's true. But here's the issue. If you're going to change the way that wins are calculated with just an inning switch, it really makes things interesting for the record books. And like baseball's a stat-driven sport, right? Like everybody likes to look at the stats. So if you make a change like that, that's pretty considerable. And like what I'm talking about is, as opposed to like the wins and losses, we call it like the actual wins and losses. You know, that's what our stat
would be. The AW and L, is that what that would be? The AWOL, basically.
The AWOL stat, sponsored by Min for the Win. Thank you.
I don't know. Maybe that's a future discussion. Oh, we should also talk about the weird ground rule Miranda play, where the ball got caught on a ledge that I have never seen a ball get stuck there before.
No, I've seen a ball hit off of that wall and off that fencing material, but I've never seen it like literally sit there. Like a guy could sit there. That's like a dude perfect trick shot. Right? Like, they're like, okay, we're going to try and hit a wall. We're going to try and hit a ball and it's going to land on the shelf in left center field in front of the bullpen. It's about 5 inches deep. Like what are the odds that happens. And it's just funny how long they had to consult about the ground rules, what this means, because the ball is accessible. It's not like stuck between the fence and the mat. It's just like on a shelf.
It was a really weird thing. It reminded me just of that oddity of a play where I think it was down the left field line. I think it was an Eddie Rosario play where the ball bounced and then bounced off the limestone.
The limestone,
that's actually in foul ground. And actually it was Eddie playing left field and he just kind of like let it go because he thought that was foul at that point or a ground to a double. And it turns out it wasn't. So it's one of those cool quirks, the quirks of baseball stadiums.
I thought you were going to bring up that inside the park home run that Buxton had that got called back because was it Luis Robert in left field for the Chicago White Sox? Like you could see the ball and he's just like, oh, I don't know, man. Yeah. I don't know how to get it. It's on the ground. Pick it up. What are you doing?
The other thing that struck me about this game is the Twins actually threw out some base stealers or would-be base stealers at second and at third base. I know the stat can be looked up, but it feels like the Twins are getting run on like crazy by other teams.
Well, how much of that, though, can be chalked up to having inexperienced arms on the mound who don't understand how to look runners back and who don't understand how important it is to be quick to home plate?
I think, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later too, but I think there's a combination. I think it's players and also coaching in some sense, and I think teams like the Rays come to town and we notice it.
All right, well, should we keep going here, Dan? Game 3.
It feels like not much happened in Game 3. We're talking about the Rays just win this one 6-0. Felt like the Twins, they put a lineup out there that was trying to win, but then they were down 5-0 after 5 innings. And at that point, David, I think I would have turned it off.
You can't do that, Dan. People are going to yell at you. I get yelled at all the time now because I make one comment one time, Dan Thompson.
Well, this again was one of those candidates. The Twins just really never mustered anything. They only had runners in scoring position 4 times. They did leave 8 guys on base, but this felt like a balancing game. This felt like, all right, the Rays were actually going to try to maybe win one of these games.
Yeah, and I do think Cole Sands, I think he's done once this lineup comes back healthy for the rotation. I think that not done in the sense that he's not going to make it back to the majors, but he clearly needs some more time at AAA to get himself sorted out.
Well, and looking at Tampa's pitchers, we talked about Rocco's line last episode where, you don't want to burn your good arms when you're behind. Well, clearly the Rays had saved their best arms for this game. Look at the ERAs of those guys who pitched. 4 of Tampa's pitchers that went today have ERAs under 2.2. So, I get it. In a series like this where you got 2 really good teams, taking 2 of 3 feels really good.
Yeah, and for the Twins, we did have the Tyler Thornburg debut, a guy who has played for several other teams at the major league level, but he comes in, goes 2 1/3, gives up 1 walk, 1 strikeout, but no earned runs, Dan. Not a bad day.
No, and then Duffy comes in and he gives up the home run to Kiermaier, but then after that he settled down and looked a lot better. They were talking about him on the radio cast and how he's getting hit. It's like 40% of fly balls that are hit off of him are going for home runs, and the league average is like 10%. And
I hate stat lines like this. I hate
what do you mean?
Stat lines like this because guys will go out of their way to find a stat to make it seem as though a guy is pitching way better than he is, or that he's just getting robbed on hits. And like this guy's average would be 8 million if he only had a higher batting average on balls in play. It's all chalked up to bad luck. Duffy only pitches when there's a strong breeze out to left field. It's like, what are you talking about? I hate it. I hate it when guys do this. They find one stat and they're like, this totally proves this guy's value and he's just getting robbed. No, anybody who watches Duffy for more than a minute sees that, he doesn't seem like he's a very good pitcher. Oh, no. Let me tell you. Let me look at this stat that people always take the time to look at to tell you how good Duffy really is. No, Dan Thompson.
Fans want an ejection. There it goes.
And that was Gardy's gripe.
Well, I will say, after Corey Probus gave that stat, Dan Gladden was like, well, that was just a bad changeup. That just didn't move. So I think there might be something to what you're saying there. Maybe Duffy's just having an off year and something's going on. And to be fair, clearly something must be wrong with what he's doing. And maybe this is something that they can fix. But I wonder if this is something maybe he's going to have to be cut loose and somebody else is going to have to work with him to fix this. I don't know. I think he's earned the opportunity to keep working through it, but not that many more chances.
Not at the major league level at this point. He's come in some big spots and has really, really underperformed. I think send him a message, send him down to AAA. Granted, we don't have anybody to take a spot who's any better. So
that's what I mean. I think you leave him in and you just keep him in situations like this that are not high leverage and you hope he can work himself out of it.
All right. Well, anything else on Game 3, Dan?
No, it's time to move on.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
Dan, we're
David.
back to the way things are meant to be. I would love it, Dan, if you would give the Puckett's Picks results.
I will. All right, so David picked Carlos Correa. He had 12 points. I picked Polanco, who had 8. The listeners picked Buxton with 7. This one looked like it was going to be all Buxton after that first game, but things switched up, and Correa wins this one for you. Season standings, now you have a 2-game lead on me. You have 8. I have 6. The listeners have 5. But we're getting tighter here on the season points. Listeners have 101. I have 95. You have 80. All kind of in the ballpark of each other there. Well, and I got some texts about not taking the singles machine, Luis Arraez, after that grand slam in game 2. We did the math. He would have had 11, so he wouldn't have quite beat Carlos Correa either. And good to see Carlos Correa playing as well as he did this series.
All right, let's keep going, Dan. Beast versus bench.
Beast versus bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
I went with Luis Arraez. I mean, his batting average is .359, and that's even after an 0 for 4 in Game 3, which again shows how much, how hard it is to hit for an average the way that he's hitting. He came into that game .367, dropped 8 points just in that one bad game.
Yeah, I wanted to go with Luis Arraez, but I am going to give it to my boy Carlos Correa because he gave me the victory in Puckett's Picks, and because, he didn't play in Game 2, but Arraez went 0 for 4 in Game 3. Is there really any difference between a guy playing and not at that point?
No, I don't think so. What do you have for your bench?
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Urshela. I'm a little bit bummed on this one. He went 0 for 7. After the Yankee series, I thought that he might come out sort of a little bit fired up, but he went 0 for 7, left 8 guys on base. 5 guys left on base for Urshela in Game 3, in a game that really, they needed a spark, and it was disappointing that he couldn't provide it.
Yeah, he also grounded into a double play in this game, too. Another inning killer like that. I agree with you. He's not been great, but I went with the starting pitcher. I went with Cole Sands, and this is a... Why are you laughing at me?
Always giving it to a guy who has a very, very small percentage of the series played in, Dan Thompson.
Oh, hold on. But he was up there for more at-bats, technically, if you count pitching to each person than any other player in the game. So I'm going to go with Cole Sands. He gets into the 5th, but he gives up the 5 earned runs, the 5 hits. He does strike out 5, but now we've seen enough of Cole Sands here, where, and you alluded to this earlier, if they had any other starting pitchers available, he wouldn't be with the team anymore. And I just think this was a game, if they were going to be able to win this game, he needed to be much better, and he wasn't good enough. And hopefully he comes back at some point a better pitcher. Let's go into Rocco's Rewind.
Rocco's Rewind.
Yeah, so why don't you start us off here, Dan?
I was looking at the stats, as I love to do, and hopefully I'm not going to set you off like I did with that last stat that I gave. I'm looking at stolen bases. So the Rays have 44 on the season. The Twins have 13, which is tied for the second fewest. They're technically tied for 28th, but whatever. That's also like tied for 29th. And I just wonder, where is the aggressiveness on the base paths? Because, Rocco's a product of the Rays system, in his past. I don't think the Rays have changed their approach all that much. Why is he such an outlier when he talks about having good team speed in other ways? Why aren't they stealing more bases?
It does seem like it's definitely an opportunity missed. So much of taking bases, though, depends on game situation, right? Mm-hmm. And I haven't looked very deeply into it. But see, Dan, this is the point where I would say, well, actually, if you look at the stats here, when they play on Tuesday nights and the weather is under 72 degrees, the Twins actually steal the most bases.
It must be the cold weather. It must be the cold weather. That's why.
No, I do think, though, it does have some issues with game situations, and they do have some speed, but the last thing you want, Dan, is a guy injuring himself stealing a base. And so when you have guys who are 100% healthy, like especially your guys who are your heavy speed guys, so like Buxton, for instance, and Royce Lewis when he was with the team, but when those guys aren't on the field or where those guys aren't super healthy, it's just easier probably to take your foot off the gas.
We should also point out Royce Lewis, he was actually officially diagnosed with a partially torn ligament in that same knee. He's out for the season, and my first thought when I saw this was, dang it, David was right.
Here's the thing, I don't revel in that, right? Like nobody wants to see a guy injured, especially Royce Lewis, a guy who's hopefully going to be a very big factor in this Twins organization. But it's one of those things where I could just tell, because of the way that they were being so cagey about what the injury was and, we're still getting it looked at. There's no way. You just knew he was done, Dan.
It was like when you had your little ice cream hat, your ice cream helmet on, I think is what I thought you were wearing in that situation.
That's my tinfoil. For those of you who are new to the show, I wear one of those Twins ice cream batting helmets. I wear those when I suggest my crazy theories of manipulation and underhanded dealings in Major League Baseball.
Well, speaking of underhanded dealings and things like that, how about you go ahead and your rewind?
So why is this underhanded, Dan
Well,
Thompson?
because you go ahead and explain to us, I think.
Okay,
why.
well, I'm just saying that using Buxton as a pinch runner in game 2, Rocco used him just as a pinch runner, not as a pinch hitter. He wasn't a defensive replacement. He was a pinch runner because Gordon had hurt his hamstring. To me, that shows that Buxton's healthy because you wouldn't use a guy who's nursing an injury, who's as valuable as Buxton, only as a pinch runner, unless the stakes were infinitely higher, right? So for me, it's one of those things where this shows that Buxton's clearly getting back to health, or as we sort of alluded to the last couple of episodes, or they've just decided we're just going to use him as we would normally use him, knowing that he's probably not going to be 100% for the rest of the season.
Right, because if he's going to be pinch running, then that assumes that they want to use his speed on the base paths, and if you're going to use your speed on the base paths, you're going to be pushing your body to take that extra base. So I would agree with you there, especially when Urshela then came in and then ended up being the fielder, because they could have put Buxton in, I think, and remanipulated people a little bit there. They certainly could have left him in, and he could have played in the outfield.
Yeah, and I do just want to say, it was so funny to me, because in my mind, all I could say is, clearly they're not trying to win game 2 until it was time to try to win game 2.
Yes.
Like, it's just like, there's just this mind switch that, okay, wait, hang on, we can win this. And so, good on Rocco, I guess. I don't know that I love these, let's just not really try this game, but at least he recognized that, okay, we have a chance to win here. Let's put the pedal to the metal.
Well, let's go into the Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
I'll let you take the obvious one, Dan Thompson.
Yeah, it's got to be Luis Arraez's grand slam in game 2, which reminded me of a tweet that I saw about a certain Joe Mauer character here. So Luis Arraez, after game 2, I believe it was Gleeman that tweeted this, his batting average heading into game 3 was .367, which was the best batting average for a Twins player to this point in the season since Joe Mauer. I believe it was in 2010. He started that season at this point, David, hitting .415. .415. That's insane. What a quality, what a Hall of Fame hitter that Joe Mauer is and was.
I'm not going to take the bait, Dan. Yeah. You know what? I've gotten riled up this episode. We're going to keep moving on. Thank you for the historical stats perspective.
All right.
Dan
you
Thompson.
Go ahead. What's your moment?
So I'm going to go with the 6-run 5th inning in game 1. Just a big moment. It kind of showed that the Twins were here to play. Buxton solo shot in the 5th, and then that was followed by 5 manufactured runs. So no more home runs in the 5th inning. Always good to see when this team is scoring runs, not on the long ball. And it should be noted, that's when the Rays had a very, very costly error that let that rally happen. And it just shows you that when a team can punish errors, Dan, they're likely to win baseball games.
Agreed, David. Well, let's go ahead to our next segment. I mean, speaking of Joe Mauer.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's musings.
So I'm going to ask about the starting rotation here. And this is a Devin Smeltzer related question here. Sonny Gray, sounds like he's going to pitch on this road trip. Joe Ryan's going to pitch on this road trip. Bailey Ober's got to come back at some point. Josh Winder's going to be coming back in the next couple weeks. Who's going to stick in the rotation?
It's a fair question, and hopefully one that actually needs answering, right? Like so many times when we have these discussions, the question answers itself because somebody else goes down with injury. But I think it's likely Archer, Bundy, Smeltzer, then Ryan and Gray, and then Ober if he's healthy. That gives you a 6-man rotation, which is basically what the Twins were working with at the beginning of the season. Actually, beginning of the season was more like an 8-man rotation, the way that Rocco had approached things. But really, I think having a 6-man rotation and just sort of praying that all of these guys stay healthy, that would be just fantastic, Dan. Any disagreements with my thoughts here?
It's hard to disagree with you, and I really do like the 6-man rotation for as many pitchers as teams can have. Now, what's wrong with doing the 6-man rotation or buddying up 2 pitchers and having them kind of work together and pitch the same game?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the approach that Rocco is going to take, and I think it's the one that he should take.
What's your musing?
So mine's a little bit wider than just the Twins. If you are subscribed to like the Minnesota Twins website and like newsletters and news updates, you've probably received, I don't know, 10 emails over the course of the last week, like a whole bunch of emails. And if you listen to the Twins radio broadcast, you've heard the same commercial, I don't know, 500 times in the last like 6 games. But so my question, Dan, these commercials, these emails, they're all about filling out your all-star ballot. And they're all about filling out that all-star ballot for all the Twins. And here's my question to you, Dan Thompson, specifically. When you fill out your all-star ballot, do you simply fill it out for all the Twins players? Or do you actually pick who you think should be an all-star based on performance, not just because they're on the team that you cheer for?
Yeah, I don't stuff the ballot with Twins players. I try to be reasonable with my selection. Now, do I shade more on the side of giving them credit when maybe they ought not, perhaps, in the grand scheme? I do. But if I'm looking at it right now, maybe this is the way to answer the question. So I'm voting for Buxton. I'm voting for Arraez. I'm voting for Correa. I'm voting for Polanco. And I actually might stop there. actually.
This
But I was worried I was going to be reading the whole list.
Gave, Dan Thompson.
I think those are the ones that I would vote for. If Joe Ryan were fully healthy and maybe still, if I don't know how eligible he would be, I guess in that sense, I'd probably vote for Joe Ryan too. Is not the answer?
I feel like you said you do one thing, but then you actually do the other, Dan Thompson.
Well, I'm not voting for like Gio Urshela or Ryan Jeffers or Gary Sanchez.
Yeah, if you're voting for those guys, there's another question to be had, I think.
Is Gilberto Celestino on that All-Star ballot, or do we have to wait a little bit for maybe wait another year?
As the bench guy, he's like you can vote for one bench player. So I think that historically I have voted all Twins players, and I think that that's probably not the ethical approach, but I don't know how much ethics really has to do with it. I mean, what I will say,
this is the thing that you can vote like 50 times in. I don't think ethics have a lot to do with all-star voting.
Perhaps I have raised the bar as far as the discussion we're having higher than it needs to be. Certainly,
this isn't like voting in like an election or something for like political office. This is an all-star game.
Dan, we are strictly an apolitical podcast. You got to be careful talking about elections and ballot stuffing. That's not okay, Dan Thompson.
Well, we want to get more episode hits. I think after that Yankees one, so we got any hashtags that'll work here, David.
No, but here's my thing. I think even if I were to vote for the people who I felt deserved it the most, I still wouldn't vote for any Yankees.
No.
So it's like my ethical standpoint is only so far. So it's like at that point, if I'm willing to not put players on from a certain team, I might as well just vote for all the Twins players.
I think, and vote for them 45 times, David, or whatever the maximum is. All right.
We should go stand out on the street corners and be like, have you registered to vote? Oh, is there an election coming up? Yeah, the All-Star game. What are you doing?
What else are you talking about? All right, let's go ahead and grade this thing.
Series grades.
Dan, there's no fireworks. There's no anger. There's no hostility. We each gave them a B.
I wanted to give them an A, but only if they had like really hard fought for this third game. But it felt like they weren't really fighting very much for this third one after they were down.
No, they were happy to win 2 games and walk away from it. And I kind of wanted to give them a C because they won the game they weren't trying to, and they lost a game they were trying to win.
It's very confusing. The other thing this makes me think of is sometimes on Twitter, because obviously Twitter is the best place to go for rational discussion. We've talked about this before.
Of course.
But people saying like, hey, what's with the Twins not putting Buxton and Correa in the lineup on Saturday? We drove for 6 hours from International Falls to watch the Twins play this one game, and they owe it to the fans.
Every player must play the full 162. And if you came to see a specific starter, we're going to play them too.
That's the thing. That's what I don't get. If you're driving from International Falls or wherever, Duluth even, aren't you going to go to more than one game? Like, you're not just going to come down for one game, right?
No, you would have to go for the full series, I would think. I mean, that would be how I would approach it, certainly. But people are people, Dan. You never know what they're going to do.
Anyway, all right, Herbie's headlines here.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
We have a lot of options here. I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
I think a common theme is old people not quite having the success that they would like. So Joe Girardi gets fired from the Phillies. Coming into Sunday's game, they'd actually won 8 games in a row since he got fired. So good on the Phillies. That worked. Joe Madden was fired after the Angels lost 12 in a row. They've not really recovered. Tony La Russa sounds like he's a bit on the hot seat in Chicago. Those guys combined are like 210 years old. And then we got Robinson Cano, who I think he's 39, and he's trying to resurrect his career in AAA. Like, what's going on? What's going on in the world of baseball?
How often has a guy of Cano's stature found himself in AAA not on a rehab stint?
Not often. I mean, I'm sure it happens. By the way, he's in El Paso playing for the Padres AAA affiliate. So Padres assigned him. He played some games with the Padres and didn't work out. So they sent him down and he cleared because nobody wanted him.
It's weird. I guess I'm just trying to understand, is it truly that he's trying to get back to the major league level? Or is it just that he's not ready to give up playing like at any level? Like if they send him to single A ball and he's down there playing with guys who are 19, 20 years old, would he still be not happy, but maybe satisfied? Is that why he's still playing? Like, I just want to get in the mindset. Does he really see this as, I'm going to return to the major league level? Or is he just playing because he wants to play?
I hope that it's the playing because he wants to play, right? Like, he can still play baseball. I mean, my gosh, there's not many people in the world who can play even AAA baseball, let alone, the major leagues. So I hope it's that. I hope that he's not just trying to chase something. Robinson Cano is one of those guys who's always been a very, very, very good player, but never quite like the great player. He's never won MVP. He's been an all-star a number of times. So I wish him the best, but at some some point, don't you just kind of hang it up and call it a career?
Well, it's one of those things, Dan. I love that line in Moneyball where they're sitting at the table. We're all told that we can't play the young man's game. It's just a matter of when. And I just love that sort of, we all want to do things, right? We want to do things for as long as we possibly can. But in all things in life, Dan, in all things in life, there's a time when we're told you can't do that anymore.
Well, David, that kind of inspires me to go into our Puckett's picks here.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Puckett's Picks.
Listeners, as always, get first pick for the upcoming Mariners series, and they're going to take Arraez off the board. And then, Dan, you get the next pick.
All right. I have to go with Byron Buxton here. I think the Mariners pitching has not been awesome this year, and Buxton's been destroying bad pitching. So I'm going to go with Byron Buxton.
Yeah, it seems like the logical pick. I'm going to go with Correa again, though, because Correa tends to win me kind of in bunches, right? When I pick Correa in Puckett's picks, he tends to win them over and over and over again for me, Dan Thompson.
That's true. He won 3 in a row earlier for you. Congratulations, by the way, on ending your 4-game losing streak.
Yeah, my goodness. I was getting worried, Dan. Talking about Correa staying up at night in cold sweats thinking about Royce Lewis. I got myself thinking about Puckett's picks, Dan.
All right. Well, David, I think with that, I'm going to send us out.
Please do. Thank you.
Folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on Twitter at Min for the Win, and you can find our Min for the Win Facebook page as well. We're also available on YouTube. You can check us out there and subscribe. However you're listening to us, if you could leave us a rating and give us a like, that would be great. Thank you for listening, and as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, 2 avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.